There's a very specific, almost haunting kind of pain that pretty much every single one of us experiences at some point. It's a pain that, well, it doesn't leave a physical mark, but it absolutely dictates the choices we make, the things we say, and ultimately the lives we live. And the strangest part? It almost always begins with complete silence. A message is sent, a job application submitted. Maybe you just put yourself out there. A risk is taken, and then nothing. At first, everything feels fine, normal. But minutes pass, then hours, maybe days. And gradually, quietly, something really unsettling starts happening inside your mind. Okay, let's dive into this. The physical situation itself, it hasn't actually changed. Nothing new has happened in the real world. And yet, emotionally, everything feels completely upside down. Why? Because the simple absence of a response quickly morphs into this devastating internal story about our own self-worth. Our brain just spirals, right? Did I say something wrong? Did they lose interest? Wait, did I mess this up? Rejection is rarely just about the event itself. It becomes this twisted reflection of who we are. Think about it. Compare the known pain of being criticized against the haunting uncertainty of being ignored. Now, criticism hurts, obviously, but it still acknowledges your existence, right? It confirms you're actually visible. Being ignored, though, that creates a vacuum of uncertainty, and the human mind absolutely despises incomplete information. It's a man's meaning. It craves closure. So when that closure is missing, our imagination is literally forced to fill in the gaps with the worst, most inaccurate negative speculation. Suddenly, silence becomes so much louder than words. Part 1. The ancient hidden code. To truly understand why a stranger's silence can just hijack our thoughts for hours, we actually have to travel back in time. We need to look at the ancient hidden code running in the background of our minds. Picture this. 10,000 years ago, we were in small tribes. 5,000 years ago, early communities. And today, we're in this hyper-connected digital society. Human society and technology have evolved at a blistering, almost unimaginable pace over these thousands of years. But the emotional software in our brains, yeah, it hasn't updated. It remains remarkably and sometimes dangerously exactly the same. See, in that ancient world, belonging wasn't just some warm, fuzzy feeling. Belonging meant physical survival. It meant collective protection, shared food, shared resources. Exclusion didn't just mean you were lonely. It meant isolation, vulnerability, and almost certain death. To our ancient brains, social acceptance was literal life or death. Being included meant you survived the winter. Being rejected reduced those chances to zero. So, the crucial point is this. Modern rejection often activates ancient survival instincts, even when there's no actual physical threat at all. When you're left on read, or when you face public embarrassment, or when a group leaves you out, that modern ignored text message triggers a primitive, deeply wired fear of starvation and isolation. In that moment, your brain literally thinks you are being cast out into the wilderness to die. Part 2. The internal search for worth. Because we are so deeply programmed to fear this exclusion, we have this habit of twisting objective reality into highly subjective, incredibly personal pain. Objectively speaking, a rejected application or a friend acting distant might just be a matter of timing or circumstances or just pure random chance. But subjectively, our mind bypasses all that logic and immediately jumps to devastating conclusions. I am not enough. Something is fundamentally wrong with me. The truth is, humans can handle disappointment surprisingly well. But what we absolutely shatter at is perceived inadequacy. When rejection feels like evidence that we're just not good enough, the event isn't just happening to us anymore, it feels like it's happening because of us. And because we are so terrified of that feeling of inadequacy, we start engaging in this invisible, lifelong campaign of avoidance. We adjust our opinions to blend in. We hide massive parts of ourselves. We stay silent when we desperately want to speak up. We say yes when every fiber of our being is screaming no. We constantly, almost daily, sacrifice our own authenticity just to maintain psychological safety, all to avoid the perceived threat of being excluded. Which leads us to this pretty devastating reality. The intense desire for approval makes our self-worth incredibly fragile. I mean, think about your own life for a second. Think about the opportunities you didn't pursue or the difficult conversations you avoided just because you were scared. The fear of rejection often controls our behavior way more powerfully than an actual rejection ever could. Part 3. Digitized rejection. Now, if navigating these ancient fears in the physical world wasn't hard enough, we've now taken our primitive survival brains and plunged them directly into a relentless digital landscape. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how we have actually quantified human connection. Likes, views, followers, comments, engagement rates. Technology has essentially weaponized our ancient biological craving for belonging and turned it into cold, hard data. Every notification is a tiny social signal of survival. And every absence of engagement, it's just another signal of isolation. The landscape of rejection has completely shifted. Historically, it happened in small groups. It was direct, physical exclusion from a village or family. But modern rejection, it's quantifiable. It's incredibly public, and it thrives on constant comparison. You don't just feel unseen. You actively watch hundreds of other people receive attention while you sit there feeling overlooked. It's this subtle, almost dystopian reality where social evaluation literally never stops. Rejection has become dangerously, permanently visible. So when people say they fear rejection, they're rarely talking about the job or the text message or the awkward date. They are describing something much, much deeper. The fear beneath the fear. It's the absolute terror of what that rejection appears to mean. Not being chosen, not being valued, not belonging. And that is an interpretation that can shape a person's decisions, the relationships, and the risks they take for years to come. Part 4. The human contradiction. This brings us to a really profound, almost haunting paradox at the very core of what it means to be human. On one hand, we have this massive desire for belonging, which makes sense. It encourages safety, it encourages conformity, it keeps us hidden right in the middle of the herd, where the predators can't reach us. But on the other hand, we have this deep need for meaning. And to live a meaningful, fulfilling life, well, that demands exposure. It requires absolute authenticity. So while our ancient brains desperately crave the safety of the crowd, our spirits actually demand that we risk the vulnerability of rejection to truly live. And this brilliantly illustrates the sheer tragedy of letting the ancient brain win. Many of the opportunities people regret missing were lost because of anticipated rejection. Not because they couldn't succeed, not because they lacked talent, but because so much of our human potential is paralyzed by a survival mechanism we don't even strictly need anymore. We forfeit our own dreams because we're anticipating a phantom threat. At our very core, we are meaning-making relational creatures. We define ourselves partly through connection. That's exactly why rejection hurts so deeply. But it is absolutely vital to remember this. Behind every confident, successful, admired facade you see, whether it's someone walking down the street or an influencer on a screen, everyone is quietly carrying the exact same ancient burden. Every single one of us is navigating the exact same psychological terrain. Because beneath all the ambition, beneath the relentless pursuit of status and popularity and validation, there is just one simple, haunting question running quietly in the background of every human mind. Do I belong? And perhaps, recognizing that this fear is completely universal, that connection has always mattered more than we even realize, well, maybe that's the first real step to finally stripping rejection of its invisible power.